This week on Barbell Shrug, we're going to talk about performance nutrition. Whether you're a CrossFit elite athlete,
We're going to talk about performance nutrition. Whether you're an elite athlete or a regular Joe, we're going to show you exactly what to eat and why.
I don't know how she did it. It's bent. Like, she must have just, yanked the shit out of
Totally
it.
panicked, huh?
Oh, yeah, she had diarrhea. So she did not want to be in the cage when it hit.
Yeah.
And then she left it upstairs. So she's had diarrhea lately. I don't know what's going on. Don't put that on Barbell Shrug.
Yeah. You got dogs too?
I do. We have a Paleo dog now, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we put our dog on Paleo about 6 months ago. It's changed her life. I'm not even kidding.
What, are you using like a paleo type dog food, or are you feeding the dog meat?
Feeding it meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how's it benefited your dog? What changes happened?
Jeez. Well, for one, she dropped down to what her regular weight should be. She's rarely hungry. Her mood is better. She doesn't limp. Loss of pain in the joints. It's all the stuff you would expect from getting a dog off of freaking nasty dog food.
Right.
And it's once you do it, it's like, well, crap, that was obvious.
Expense wise, it's a lot more expensive, or how's that even out for you?
It's hard to say, because a lot of it, what we started was we had a freezer full of pork fat that we thought we were going to use with the deer I was going to kill last year to make pork fat, to make deer sausage. Mm-hmm. The distinct absence of deer in my fridge has kind of stopped that. But so when we realized Chloe had a real bad UTI, so we just decided it was time to give her better food. So we started her out on liver and pork fat, and it was pork liver that we didn't want to eat it, but we had a lot of it because Janet's parents killed a pig. And it went from there. So the expense so far has been almost zero. And what I really want to do is get enough deer this year that I feed her deer all year.
That's brilliant. I've been trying to think. Yeah. I buy my dogs the expensive, like Evo, the ancestral blend dog food.
Right.
Thinking I'm doing them a favor, which I probably am to a degree. But just go kill some deer this winter. You're set.
You could do that, and you could also look at beef liver at the grocery store. Obviously, grocery store liver is not premier quality, but relatively low cost because nobody eats liver anymore. Mm-hmm. So you look at pricing that out. And the stunning thing is, how little they need when you're feeding them real food.
Yeah.
It's very small portions. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that will stun you is what comes out on the back end. It's like the volume of feces is just minuscule.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like they're all of a sudden getting all their nutrients and their hunger just kind of goes away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's pretty profound.
Weird how that happens once you get all the nutrients you need.
Yeah.
Your body stops giving you hunger signals.
Funny thing, yeah.
Are you on intro?
Should we try that with people?
I've been trying that with people for years. What have you been doing?
It only works on animals.
That's way too radical.
All right, I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Barbell Shrugged podcast, strength and conditioning for CrossFitters mainly. And dogs. Here with Doug Larson and our guest, Paul Eich, owner of CrossFit Fire of the Gods.
Morning, everybody.
And he's done a couple of nutrition seminars for us at Faction and at another CrossFit here in town, Wolf River CrossFit. You did that this past year.
Yeah.
Also.
Yes.
So we invited you over because you know a good bit about nutrition. And I really like the way you present things.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Glad I had today off so I could indulge.
Yeah. Are you, most days are off now, right?
Well, no, I'm back at work as of about 2.5 weeks ago, which is good and bad. But today, Columbus Day, mandatory holiday.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was a holiday.
The only reason I knew it was a holiday is because I logged into my bank this morning.
Yeah.
And it goes, just to let you know, the branches are closed. I go,
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? If I was in school, I would have definitely known it was Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Today, I want to talk a little bit first about the Faction Foods Nutrition course Doug is doing on starting next Monday on the 15th, October 15th. It's a free online course. So if you can make the course live, it's free to you. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Just like Mike said, it's a live course that I'm going to be hosting. It's going to be 8 sessions total, and it'll be starting this coming Monday, October 15th, from noon until 1 for the first session. And then it'll be Monday through Thursday for 2 weeks in a row, all sessions noon till 1. So if you would like to get the link sent to you, you can go to fitter.tv, and right below the newsletter opt-in box, there'll be a little banner ad that has a free nutrition course written on it and a bunch of fruit and vegetables in the background. Just click on that banner ad and it'll take you to a little opt-in form that has the schedule that I just laid out for you. And you can put your name and your email in the space provided. And then prior to each session, I'll send you a link so you can log in and watch the live webinar. Excellent.
And if you're listening to this and those dates have passed, because people definitely go back and watch some of these things in the past, and I think they watch them in the future, actually.
In the future, they'll watch the show, which was recorded in the past.
Yes. That same nutrition course will be available to you in the Fitter store. So just click on shop and you'll be able to purchase it there.
It'll be under the seminars section for $197.
If you watch it live, it'll be free.
That's right.
If you get it afterwards, it won't be free. Sorry. If you got more time than money, there you go. It's for you.
There you go.
If you got more money than time, it's for you too. It's crazy. So we'll get right into the topics today. We're going to be talking about performance nutrition. And first thing we're going to talk about is why performance nutrition, and maybe who it's for and who it might not be for. I think we started talking about it before we started recording, and Paul was making a really good point about most people probably don't need this.
So I suppose it depends on how you define performance nutrition. If you eat well
Right.
all the time, it's going to help your performance. But usually when people are discussing performance nutrition, they're talking about, before, during, and after your workout, or before, during, and after competition for things like recovery and what have you. But first things first, you got to eat well all the time before you need to worry about what goes in your one workout drink, per day. So once you elaborate on just eating in general outside of your workout drink first, and then we can dig into the workout drinks.
Well, one of the really tough things about nutrition is that because there's so much variation in the human animal, age, gender, your sort of the dietary history you've put yourself through, how much sleep you had the night before. I mean, there's a million of them. And so, you get things like Jason Khalipa, the year he won the 2008 CrossFit Games, was rumored to have had Fruity Pebbles the morning before he, did that incredible heavy squat grace. So it's really difficult in some cases to discern the impact of nutrition, because to a certain point, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can eat like crap and still crush out some awesome workouts, which probably most of us that have ever done awesome workouts, the majority of us, and for the majority of our lives, we did it on really nasty food. I certainly did until I was probably well over 30. I probably never worked out on anything that approached a healthy diet up until then. I don't know about you guys.
I did a lot of training on bad food.
Heck yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
sure. I used to eat pasta and chicken breasts nightly for years.
And I remember you telling me at one point you would get up at night, do a protein drink, and go back to sleep so you could keep the weight on.
Yeah, it was. I would powder raw oatmeal, like uncooked oatmeal, in a coffee grinder. Put a bunch of that in a shaker bottle with a couple scoops of protein. I would powder flax seeds also, and then I would just shake it up with water and cinnamon, and I would just set it next to my bed. And then I'd wake up in 4 hours and drink the whole thing, put it back down. And some mornings I would wake up and it would just be gone.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even remember. It was so fast. I could put down like 400 or 500 calories in the middle of the night and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like just 80% grains in the middle of the night. Just chug it down and go back to sleep.
Wow.
And it did. It helped keep weight on. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
So it worked, but it might not have been the best thing.
Well, your trade-off there is you get an effect you want, which is you're playing a super high mass. Well, you're playing a sport where mass is critical.
Mm-hmm. And back then I was in Division III college football.
Yeah.
I was trying to be as big as possible as a linebacker. As
possible. That's right. Yeah. So your long-term trade-off of living like that is you probably cost yourself something. You cost your metabolism something by eating that way and living that way. But let's face it, high-end competitors do that. They're making those trade-offs. So there's no evidence at all. In fact, what evidence there is that being a high-end competitor is not good for your health. Mm-hmm. So that's just part of the deal. But so I make that point just to say, performance nutrition is not only just for competitors, it's for those competitors who either really found their limits with crappy nutrition and realized that if they wanted to continue to compete or if they wanted to continue to get better, they had to make a change. Mm-hmm. Or it's for athletes who just have that OCD thing like, holy crap, I might be leaving a few seconds on the table if I don't eat better, and I'm not willing to leave a few seconds on the table, so I'm going to eat better. It's really for, in my view, it's something for a really small slice of the population, and that's not either good or bad. It's just the way I see it. So, for most of the people that you see in a CrossFit gym, I wouldn't encourage them to think of it in terms of performance nutrition. I would, as you said earlier, just encourage them to think of it in terms of what are my nutritional needs as a human being and how do I meet those best? And that's also going to serve probably to the 90th or 95th percent their performance goals. And if you're talking about people that are training 3 times a week hard doing CrossFit, I don't think they should ever have to take it any farther than just eat that paleo model, paleo template kind of meat and vegetables, nuts, seeds, no fruit, little fruit, no sugar, no starch. I'm sorry, no sugar, no wheat, and apply that with skill. And that's probably as much thought as you need to give to it. Mm-hmm. If you want to take it now, there are those folks who want to take it further than that. And for them, probably what I would see as the next step is weigh and measure your food so that you have some possibility of evaluating cause and effect. In other words, if you're eating some food and it's all good in terms of quality, and you feel like your performance is suffering, and you have some reason to think it's related to diet, well, if you don't know how many grams of protein you're eating, you don't know what to change. If you don't know how many grams of carbohydrate you're eating, you don't really know what to change. So if you want to have that option of observing the effect and modulating the inputs, then you need to weigh and measure so you know where you're at. Mm-hmm. And there's a starting point of probably for a youthful mid-sized athlete, something like 100 grams of protein per day. I mean, assuming you want to be a competitor, is probably something like a minimum for a hard training athlete. And on the upside, Louis Simmons says he's only eating 150 grams of protein a day. So I would say that somewhere between 100 and 150 is going to meet your needs. It's going to meet your requirement. In terms of carbohydrate, that one's just a gigantic lot of variables in that, because endurance athletes and probably even people that are doing CrossFit endurance are going to have a completely different carbohydrate requirement than, for example, someone who is maybe was overweight for 10 years, lost it all, but has, probably still retained some of that metabolic injury, and their carbohydrate tolerance is going to be much lower, and they're doing CrossFit 4 days a week. Mm-hmm. So they're not experiencing a huge amount of time under load. They're not consuming, they're not burning vast quantities of fuel in training, and they probably have maybe some damage that makes them carbohydrate sensitive. Their carbohydrate needs are going to be really low. And I, for example, I count myself in that category. I'm at about 75 grams per day. I train 3 or 4 days a week. One CrossFit workout out of 4 will be 20 minutes or longer. Most of them are short. And, more carbohydrate than that, it may not hurt me, but I certainly don't need it. There's no upside for me to go into eating more unless I wanted to start, riding a bike 2 or 3 times a week, something like that, do some endurance thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you might have somebody with a different body type. I think John Berardi's been good about pointing out that, the ectomorphs are, you look at their bodies, they don't store fat under their skin. You could almost look at the leanness of that body type and say that's a body that does not like fat.
What's an ectomorph like for the audience here?
It's a great question. Think of a basketball player first and foremost. Arms and legs everywhere. The torso, probably the hips and shoulders are going to be the same, or maybe the shoulders a little bit more narrow than the hips. The string bean, the bean pole, the guys that think of themselves as the quote unquote hard gainers, they don't put on muscle mass. They rarely, they can usually eat anything they want. They don't put on fat mass that you can see.
They're skinny people.
Skinny people, yeah. and skinny, but in a way that's probably, you could also say length associated with that, not just small, but sort of longer and leaner.
Okay.
And I think John Berardi's makes the point that they have a lower tolerance for fat, and it makes sense when you look at their body as a body that doesn't like fat anyway. It doesn't really know what to do with it. So if you're dealing with an athlete with that shape, you're going to have to find ways to get them carbohydrates. You can't make up calories just on a ton of fat. So you're going to have to find a kind of carbohydrate that they can tolerate pretty well. Maybe rice would be the first one I would think of for that kind of problem.
So why rice over wheats or anything else?
Well, rice is... just pragmatically, it's pretty well tolerated by most people. So there's the pragmatic side of it. And then in the theoretical side of it, rice has probably propagated as an agricultural food as long as wheat. It just came from the other hemisphere. Instead of the Fertile Crescent, it came from the Pacific Rim probably. And 3, from what we know about wheat, the things that make it difficult for some people to tolerate, probably a lot of people to tolerate, have all been exacerbated by selective breeding over the years. So that now we have species of wheat that are short. They're the dwarf varieties. They're all seed head and no stalk, and they're along with some of that genetic modification. They make it more drought tolerant. They make it you can plant it more densely. It thrives on ammonium nitrate rather than soil. And a lot of modifications, but with that, it's made it an agricultural dream in terms of putting out a lot of product, and it's, doesn't take as much water and makes allows you to make a profit off this little spot of farmland. But it's not really, it's even more of an unnatural food probably than the original species of wheat were they basically, it was grass, and it was grass in the right spot in the world that people could cultivate it, and from that came wheat, or that was wheat, but that plant is virtually not available now. So even if you came from a genetic heritage that was wheat tolerant, you might not be tolerant to modern day wheat because it's significantly different species. So long way of saying that wheat is problematic for more people than rice is.
So for everyone that just heard, he said I can eat as much rice as I want. You're saying for someone who might happen to be an ectomorph, a longer, leaner, naturally skinny person, you can probably, if you are that person, tolerate having a higher percentage of your diet as carbohydrates. Therefore, having some rice in your diet tends to be okay. But you didn't say it's a free-for-all for everybody, right?
Thank you for saying what I meant. Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
I think that's.
I think you said that.
It's an important distinction.
I'm just not sure if they heard that.
Yeah, it's an important distinction that if you're a young athlete without a history of metabolic derangement and you're competing, your desired competitions run toward the endurance side or maybe you're just a super high volume CrossFitter and you've got to come up with some calories. That's going to be the first place to go to get them. Unless you find you can take olive oil shots and spoonfuls of coconut oil and get your calories that way.
Yeah, if you train 2 or 3 times a day and you don't bump your carb intake, you're going to be tired all the time, and you're not going to perform that well. You got to replace it somewhere. If you're burning it, you got to get it back somehow. You don't want to overdo it. You want to go, you don't want to have that stuff spill over and get fat as a result, but you You need to have some of it if you want to perform at a high level.
Check.
What about the other body types? If you're not a skinny person, then what do you do?
Well, it just means you have other options, and you may not have the option of upping the carbs. So, for example, if you're the endomorph, the rounder person, large bones, lots of subcutaneous fat, and pear shape, tend towards power sports. I'm trying to think if we have endomorphs in elite CrossFit, and it's uncommon.
It's not really an endomorph sport. It's like shot putting would be more likely.
I was trying to think if there's any of the gals the super strong gals that might fit that profile, but there are at least some. There, you might consider some of those really large, very strong females as endomorphs, but they're probably a mix of endomorph, mesomorph, or maybe just a straight. It's probably not worth burning up a lot of brain cells over. But if you are an endomorph, you're going to have probably less tolerance for carbohydrate than any of the other body types. So if you're in that situation where you're logging a lot of hours in training and you've got to replace calories, I would want that athlete to go to fat sources first, things they can eat in high volume that are not too expensive, which is a problem because fats are obviously going to be more expensive than rice and wheat and sugar. So coconut oil, olive oil, animal fats that you can get. This is where you're going to have to go if you're that athlete.
So if you've been heavy your whole life, through no fault of your own, it might have been your fault in some cases, but some people have just been heavy their whole life. They can never remember being skinny.
Yeah.
Right. Those people more than likely just aren't going to tolerate higher volumes of carbohydrate intake compared to other body types. So if you're naturally big, you probably want to keep your carbs pretty low and bump the amount of fat in your diet.
That's what I would try.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mike, you still awake? You over there? Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
You're the host of the show. We cut you out for a little while.
It's because Chris got in the middle and didn't point the camera at me. I felt left out. Now, I don't know. You guys are covering it pretty well. I can just sit over here and enjoy the show. You guys are doing good. I want to talk. So, why performance nutrition? Most people probably just have a hard time doing what you're talking about. Just talk about just eating paleo. Period.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not eating performance nutrition, you probably don't need to worry about like the pre-workout, during workout, and post-workout shakes and all that. Do I need to get a bunch of carbs right after I train? Stuff like that. Unless you're already eating paleo like 90-95% of the time. I think that if you're drinking, I know we advocate at Faction, if you're doing a decent amount of volume, you're doing a lot of competitions, it's going to be beneficial to drink a shake with whey protein and some kind of like starch sugar, a waxing maize or Gatorade or some mix between the two right after you train. But that's only for the people who are keeping it pretty low carb the rest of the time.
Yeah. And they're going to train the next day.
Right.
Or maybe twice a day.
Yeah, that's all about recovery and getting calories and getting carbohydrates. But if they're not eating paleo like 90-95% of the time, it's kind of pointless to even do a post-workout shake or the workout shakes, just because you're probably not getting all the nutrients you need to use that stuff anyway.
So I hear people say that all the time and about recovery. And if you know what that means, then you go, oh yeah, for recovery, absolutely. But if you don't know what that means, then it sounds like this nonsensical recovery mystery, what's actually happening in the body. I have no idea. I'll just do what you say. So can you maybe elaborate on what recovery even means?
Sure.
And why you would want a workout shake?
Well, in the CrossFit models specifically, you're burning up, you probably are running a good percentage of 1,000 calories worth of carbohydrate that your body has stored as glycogen, or either muscle or liver glycogen. And you go out and hit a 15-minute CrossFit WOD, you're going to burn up a healthy proportion of that in that workout. So recovery number one in the context of doing your next workout is somewhere between the end of that workout, that 15-minute, Cindy you just did, and the one you're going to do tomorrow. You got to replace that glycogen, the fuel in the muscles and the sort of the sugar battery that your liver normally maintains. So that's why the significance of what Mike just said. If you're a regular CrossFitter doing regular CrossFit workouts, 3 on, 1 off, you probably don't have to do anything special to replace all that muscle glycogen, because the food that you eat during the ensuing 24 hours is going to replace it. If you're a competitor and you're going to you're going to do a workout in the morning and then workout in the afternoon and another one the next morning, you have a different problem. You've really got a timeline. You got to get enough carbohydrate down in a short enough period of time to replace all the glycogen that you just burned. So primarily that's recovery. There's also obviously protein synthesis and muscle building and muscle teardown, and that comes along that you also have to deal with. And so that's why it's fashionable to do a whey protein, because the whey is the more rapidly digestible form of protein after a workout. And it's probably a good thing to do, because if you follow the Paleolithic model or the Paleolithic template, you rapidly find out how difficult it is to knock back 100 or 125 grams of protein every day. You got to work at it. You got to plan it. It's not easy to do. And so, for example, I'll do a post-workout shake with raw dairy, just because I know otherwise I'm not going to get that 100 grams of protein that I want. And because my diet meets my needs in every other way, I'm not going to, I've taken the lazy man's way out. Instead of eating more meat during the day, I cheat and have a protein shake after a workout. But if I don't have,
So do we.
Yeah.
I don't call it cheating.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
And then I drink raw milk after that, on top of that.
For the fun of it. Because it's good.
That's just me being lazy, not wanting to eat 10 times in a day to
Exactly.
get enough calories.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think that brings, to me, what that highlights, and all this whole conversation highlights, is we talk about it paleo for short, but it's really just the idea of the Paleolithic model of nutrition is that we had ancestors who were healthy, pretty impressive athletes, high performance athletes, and they weren't eating agricultural products all day long to get there. They were eating animal products to a very large extent, not exclusively, and certainly that varied by population and geography, but they limited, they ate what they had to eat, which was largely animal products. And you can look at that like an animal is just a way of refining nutrition. You get an animal to run around and eat a bunch of crappy food like leaves and acorns and grass and whatever else they eat. Stuff you and I wouldn't want to spend all day eating ourselves. They eat it, refine it into nutrition. We kill it and get it through the animal instead of having to run around munching on grass all day. And I kind of like that idea. Let's face it, it took us millions of years to get to the top of the food chain. I don't want to screw it up now, but so from that, the Paleolithic model, we probably don't, even if you're eating quote unquote 95% paleo, what you're saying is, I'm staying away from those known agricultural products that make me prone to be sick. But the real Paleolithic people ate a whole bunch of stuff we don't eat, like liver, kidney, the intestines, the brains, the eyes, the tongue. They had bone broths. They ate the bone marrow. Once the animal went around and ate all that grass, they would eat, obviously, just pragmatically find a way to eat the whole thing, because if they didn't, that just meant they had to go hunting again sooner. So, it was, that's what our body, the reason that is good nutrition is because that's what our genome was built around. So it's not that it's necessarily magic. It's just that, supply and demand, or survival of the fittest, whatever is there for you to thrive on, the genome adapts to it. And so that's the normal.
That's what got passed on.
That's normal nutrition. It's not magic. It's just, that's what we're built for. So that's why it works. Now I say, this is another long-winded explanation for saying most of us don't eat paleo, even if we say we eat 95% paleo, because we're not eating organ meats and we're not eating bone broths and so on and so forth. So, all right, what does that really mean for the consumer out there? One is, the point of the Paleolithic model is to, try to meet your needs using things that were available to be eaten prior to the advent of agriculture. And that's extremely challenging to actually do that. And it's just really tough. So I try not to get too much into that's a long way of saying I don't want to get into the purism thing. There are people who can take paleo to a level of purity that makes it unlivable and almost hostile for a normal person trying to live a normal life. Really, you want to boil it all down. What do you want to get from the Paleolithic model of nutrition? Don't kill yourself with carbohydrates. That's about 80% of the solution. If you get carbohydrates under control, a lot of the nastiness of the modern diet will go away. You get out of metabolic derangement just by doing that single thing. And then you make that, 80% step that solves about 80% of the problems. And then say, next thing you do is start eliminating omega-6s from your diet. That will also help by, eliminating the omega-6 and omega-3 imbalance, which tends to foster inflation. So you don't have to, worship at the altar of paleoism to make those two big changes, but the whole paleo template really reinforces how significant those changes are, in my view.
So what's an omega-6 for all those people that go to the grocery store and they don't walk around and see something that says omega-6s and go, I was told not to buy those.
Right.
So what's an omega-6 and how can people avoid them?
That's a great question, Doug, because we always assume on the inside that everybody knows what the heck we're talking about. But omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, the short version is they're essential fatty acids, meaning we don't make them for ourselves very well. And I always, when I think of essential things like vitamin C or vitamin, drawing a short stick here, creatine, there's a few other things that we don't really make for ourselves. If we don't get it in our diet, we're going to be deficient. So I in the perspective of the Paleolithic model, what that means is those things were just always there. I mean, a million years ago, nobody knew what vitamin C was, but we still got enough. Not because we tried, it just was always in the food that we ate in the right amount. And for example, probably liver or seafoods or whatever it was. So
unlike vitamins that once we figured out what they were, we figured out how to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic, I thought.
Yeah.
Got rid of them by accident. And then figured out that there was a problem that we got rid of them. So we synthetically
tried to reintroduce
them.
Bingo.
And now we're probably missing out on stuff that we don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Haven't discovered it yet.
What's the next wave? It's going to be, I'll tell you the first one is it's going to be all of the things that we get from the sun besides vitamin D that we're going to figure out we've been missing out on. But that's my speculation anyway.
So just sunlight?
Sunlight, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to find that just supplementing vitamin D, it keeps you from short-term chronic, deficiency, vitamin D deficiencies, but it doesn't. But just adding vitamin D in doesn't add back everything that the sun.
There's probably
sun
something
exposure.
else going on there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd never heard anybody phrase it like that. Right when you said that, in my head, I was like, holy shit, he's right.
Well,
yeah, I never thought about anything other than vitamin D. Like it didn't cross my mind there was another possibility.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I stole the idea from Mike Eads, so I can't claim any credit for it. But
I'm so disappointed now.
yeah, that's right. I know my status just went away in you guys' eyes. What a bummer! I should have
Kicked yourself
my
down
mouth
a notch.
shut. Well, so omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids are essential, meaning we only get them because we eat them and consume them. So the short version of them is all you need to really know is Paleo man probably got them in a certain ratio, 1-2 or 1-3. And with the advent of industrial seed oils, quote unquote corn oil or vegetable oils, which I've learned to say with contempt on my face, we get, a wildly imbalanced ratio of omega-6s compared to the amount of omega-3s. And we probably it's possible we're omega-3 deficient, but we're at least way over consuming omega-6s. And what that leads to is a high state of chronic inflammation, which just about everybody agrees is the root is an essential element of the diseases of civilization. So if you can cut back on your omega-6s to get it closer to the optimal ratio, that's a step towards greater health and probably the most significant one you can make aside from not killing yourself with too much carbohydrate.
Yeah, a lot of people call omega-6s like white oils, just like white flour or white sugar. Like it's the processed food of the oil world. So it's white oils.
White oil devil.
That's right. Like the corn oil and the soybean oil and the vegetable oil, like you mentioned, those are white oils.
Yeah.
all bleached and degummed and deodorized and soaked in solvents and good for you.
And invented essentially in the last 50 or 60 years.
Pretty much, yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay,
Perfect
here
sense.
let's back away from the science for the moment. What's your typical day look like? Like if you go kind of breakfast, snack, lunch, dinner, like what do you normally eat?
Well, I started about a year and a half ago not eating breakfast as an experiment to see what would happen. You know, Martin Burkhan was hot at the time, and Rob Wolf was talking about intermittent fasting, and it was a hot topic, and it was before John Berardi published his intermittent fasting guide. Mm-hmm. And what I found was that Burkhan was right, that it really is a lot of significant benefits to skipping breakfast. You know, you can call it intermittent fasting, or you can call it being too lazy to eat breakfast. It doesn't matter. It's the same, you know, basically it just means you don't eat till lunchtime. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you could delve deeply into the science of why that might be a good thing, you know, in terms of, there's a whole bunch of stuff which I could delve into, but it's a deep rabbit hole once you get started talking about it. But the short version is there seem to be a lot of maintenance functions that your body does when it's not occupied digesting food and transporting it around the body. Mm-hmm. And there also seems to be that whole benefit of running longer on fat and sustain, you know, sort of demanding that your body oxidize fat for fuel, since you're not giving yourself any either sugar or carbohydrate, mm-hmm. nor are you providing protein to make gluconeogenesis easy. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, in effect, what you do is set yourself up to run the brain on ketones and a little bit of sugar, trickle feeding it sugar, so to speak, and then you run the rest of your body on fat, which is, in my view, if you want to talk about the Paleolithic model, that's the Paleolithic template for healthy metabolism, is that you feel, say, 98% of your body on fat, mm-hmm. which oh, by the way, you've got enough fat in your body to run probably a month, whereas you've got enough sugar in your body right now to run, say, probably 1,000 calories. If all you were running on is sugar, you'd be about a half day's fuel.
An afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, just by that fact alone, you can say, well, really, we're made to store and operate based on fat, so the fasting, that intermittent fasting or skipping breakfast, allows you to do that. And it demands that your body get good at doing it. So I see a lot of benefits from doing that. So I'll eat, usually I eat at my desk at work, so sandwich meat, 2 squares of dark chocolate, a lot of coconut oil, and usually some kind of, macadamia nuts, sunflower seeds, occasionally walnuts, pecans, some kind of fat source that way. Mm-hmm. So to break it down, I got this from years of doing the zone, which I think is a great way to eat if it works for you. But the nicest thing that I took away from it is to just look at your food like it's a protein, it's a fat, it's a carbohydrate. You want some of each one at every meal. And so you pick out a protein, pick out a carb to go with it, and then eat fat to satiety as the basic template. Mm-hmm. I'd like to give you a more technical answer for what I eat for evening meal, except I eat what my wife cooks. And
hey, me too.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness
my
for
wife,
that.
not yours.
Yeah. I appreciate you pointing that out. And
before you get home, I eat what your wife cooks.
But the short answer for what she's going to make is it's going to be a protein source, fish, fowl, or beef, or pork, or something, mm-hmm. and a vegetable. And usually there's something else like a salad, so mm-hmm. Could be sweet potato, green beans in a salad. And really I'm not a novelty person at all. I can eat the same thing every day. It still tastes as good as every single day. It's fine. I don't have to have a variety. Mm-hmm. Janet, on the other hand, requires it. So mm-hmm. the beneficiary to me and my family is we probably get a lot better nutrition because the mm-hmm. variety in itself we have some reason to think that not eating the same thing all the time is probably good for you. It follows the model of, if you think of the Paleolithic template, Paleolithic people didn't eat the same thing in the spring as they ate in the fall as they ate in the winter, and in most cases, not all. So that's probably good for us. And so I can give you a lot more detail on what Janet's going to make every night, but it's going to be a meat, a protein, and a vegetable. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much that simple for me. And I would say, as simple as it is right now, when I started doing intermittent fasting, I had weighed between 210 and 213 for probably 2 years. Since then, and I didn't consciously reduce my intake at all, but since then I've been at between 200 and 205 for the last year and a half, literally effortlessly. And probably most important for me, the biggest change is the flexibility, because if you get up in the morning and every day you feel like, and this is what I got, this is the bad side I got from the zone, although it was probably helpful in the beginning. If you get up in the morning and the first thing you think every day is, man, I got to get some food down or I'm going to have a sugar crash, it adds a hurdle to your morning that, you know, if you're not a morning person, you really don't need. You know, I'd much rather, I like getting up now where I think my first thought is to not even think about food. I still got the thing with the coffee, like, oh, if I don't get some coffee, my head's going to hurt, which, you know, presumably sometime in my future, I'll unfrock that too. But since I haven't done that yet, at least I don't have to worry about eating food. And I don't recommend intermittent fasting for people who are starting out following the Paleolithic model, because they don't have the ability to burn fat all day.
Right.
So what I would recommend for them is to pick a fat and a protein to eat for their breakfast, and maybe just a touch of carbohydrate. But all night long, however long you've been sleeping, you've got a great thing going. You got your body running on stored fuels, so probably some sugar, but a fair amount of fat, and probably turning some protein into sugar and some fat into ketones. So that's all good. That's all to your benefit, and as long and not interrupting that is good. So if you have protein and fat for breakfast, and this is assuming, by the way, that you have some interest in being having a lower body fat percentage. If you've got that going and you continue that by starting your day with a protein and a fat and not eating any carbohydrate, you're going to continue that process of burning fat, oxidizing fat, demanding that your body liberate fat and use it for fuel. And that's going to help you in your weight loss goals and your body composition goals. And generally in your appetite reduction, which is really the reason why low carb is successful, carb restriction, the paleo model, whatever it is. It's not, there's probably some metabolic advantage at some point in that process where your body's so efficient at burning fat and protein that you have to burn more of it to get useful calories out of it. But in the long term, your body's perfectly efficient on that model. Not a big advocate of metabolic advantage as why carb restriction works well. Carb restriction works well because it allows you to get stable blood glucose using burning protein and fat. And with stable blood glucose, you gradually reduce your positive association to sweet, sugary foods because you don't need them anymore to maintain a stable blood sugar. And so, going with the low carb, higher fat approach, as appropriate to your body type is successful because it breaks the pattern of hunger associated with crashing blood sugar, which is a result of eating too much carbohydrate for a long period of time. And in that process, sort of interrupting your ability to run on fat. So that's kind of a long-winded explanation, but the short version is you want to start your day with as little carbohydrate as you can stand because it'll help you build that capacity to oxidize fat and fuel yourself that way through the day.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break?
Yes.
Yes, about that time. All right, when we come back, we will talk about performance nutrition a little bit more and a little less about basics of paleo.
Yes.
All right.
And enjoy your, banded push press.
Banded push press.
Banded push press. I'll go to the bathroom. Welcome back to Technique Wad. Today we're going to talk about improving the mechanics of your jerk and your push press. A common problem that people have is that their heels tend to come off the ground or they get toe heavy on the dip portion of the jerk or push press, and Mike has a very novel solution to fix that particular problem. Mike?
Novel and painful. All right, so just as Doug said, if you watch someone from the side, you'll see this a lot during Metcons, and during a Metcon, it may not be too much of a concern because you're going for speed, but if you're going for max weight or for if you're going for a big jerk, shifting the weight to your toes and your heels lifting off the ground during the dip and drive is a very bad thing, all right? So one of the things we want to fix is one of the things we want to improve on is keeping the heels on the ground through the dip and drive. The weight should be at the front of the heel, not towards the toes. All right. So, one of my good fixes for this is a banded push press. No, the band does not go around the bar. So, what you're gonna do is you're gonna step in to your band. You're gonna pull it over your head, like so. You'll step in. It's gonna be a little awkward. All right. Start with a light band and light weight. You'll then unrack your bar, step out, and you're gonna do your push presses from here. So you're gonna dip and drive. There. Back down. There. What I like to do is get a weight and a band that's gonna make it really tough to do between 10 and 15 reps. Almost to failure. When you do 10 to 15 reps with a banded push press, then you'll come out, wait a couple minutes, and then do some push presses without it. Afterwards, you'll feel how your heel will stay much more glued to the ground. You're gonna have to drive through your heels more. Welcome back to Barbell Shrug. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson and Paul H. Talking a little bit about nutrition. Yay!
Which is a narrow topic and easy to cover in a 1-hour podcast.
Yes, easily.
We're gonna cover
We've
it
almost
all.
covered the whole thing.
Yeah. We're trying to steer this ship a little bit more towards the performance side of things for CrossFit athletes, people who are wanting to be competitive, and even people who just maybe are already eating extremely paleo. Extremely paleo.
Extremely paleo.
That's my new book that's coming out, Extremely Paleo. Look for it nowhere.
Why 95% of paleo is not good enough.
That's right. So if you're already eating paleo, you're training, you're getting in more than 5 training sessions a week. Start looking at getting more maybe some liquid calories, post-workout shakes, stuff like that. And I think we want to take this. What's the difference between, between performance and paleo? And one thing we were talking about on the first half of the show is for most people, eating paleo is eating for performance. But you take that athlete who's high volume training, the endurance athlete, the CrossFit athlete, they're burning a large amount of glycogen during their workouts. And if they don't replenish that glycogen, and they're also tearing down a lot of muscle too.
Yeah.
If they don't replace that glycogen, they don't get the amino acids they need to rebuild that muscle, then their next workout's just going to be not as good, and they're not going to get the same power output. They're not going to get the adaptations they're looking for. So they're for most people, paleo is performance. But for that athlete who needs to get more glycogen in their muscles and really push it in,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
The athletes that are either competing on a stage somewhere against other athletes, or they're just trying to totally maximize the amount of training they can get in a week.
Right.
This is who we're talking about now.
Some people, they may not be interested in competing, but that doesn't mean they can't train
Like a competitor.
Competitor, right. One of the things, before we get into like post-workout shakes and stuff, you were talking a little bit about, during the break, we started talking about a study that you saw in regard to what they were overfeeding people.
Right.
And just go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the concept of the study is that bodybuilders, power athletes have long since been into the idea of eating a lot of protein. And of course, some people say you don't eat it; it's bad for you, etc. But this study was by a guy who's not an advocate for low carb as a way to for weight loss. He's really stuck on the calorie as a calorie idea, and it's not that he's wrong; he just doesn't understand the causality. Different story. In this particular study, he overfeeds people by a massive amount, and I'm going by memory, but seems like it was about 10,000 calories a day these people were eating. So it was a lot. It's probably 7,000 or 8,000 more than most people need in a day. So
that's 3 times as much as I eat in a day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they kept the ratio of macronutrients for carbohydrate constant at 40%, which even, 40% isn't a huge number of carbohydrate if you're trying to go isocaloric, but if you're going 10,000 calories a day, that's about 4,000 calories of carbohydrate every day. And most of us can do just fine on probably 100 calories of carbohydrate. So
and if you're eating paleo, you're not eating 40% carbohydrate.
it's hard to do.
Unless you're John Wellborn and you're slamming sweet potatoes.
Right, right.
And you said earlier that you get about 75 grams of carbohydrate per day.
Right.
And 4,000 calories of carbohydrate is 1,000 grams. So it's over 10 times as many carbohydrates as you eat in a day.
Exactly.
40.
It's a lot. So to give you an idea, I mean, I really, like the guy, Supersize Me, that movie that took a stab at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. That guy was eating about 5,000 calories a day, and you saw how sick it made him, or at least he tried to portray how sick that it made him. Mm-hmm. So these guys were eating double that.
Okay. So what was the point of the study? What were they trying to figure out?
When I look at the study now, I don't even know what they were trying to figure out, because when you're overfeeding by that amount, it just confuses so many variables. It's really hard to say what the results were showing. But the findings were interesting because what they varied was the fat and protein content. So there was a really high fat, really low protein group that had one result, and there's a group in the middle, and there's a group with really high protein, really low fat. And so they all of the subjects in the 3 different protocols, the average weight gain was similar. Even the average fat gain was similar. But the interesting thing was that the low protein folks actually lost muscle mass and gained more fat, and the super high protein folks actually gained muscle mass and didn't gain as much fat. The only takeaway I can think of from the study, and I sincerely doubt the authors of the study were trying to figure this out when they started it, is that if you feed yourself enough protein, your body will dispose of it in the muscle cells.
It'll produce more muscle.
Exactly right. It'll look around and say, you know what? I got way too much nitrogen here. What the heck am I going to do with it? And it'll shuttle it into your muscles one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Now, that may, the confounder there is it may only work when you're also overfeeding carbohydrate and therefore have a lot of insulin floating around too.
Right. Because
that's part
of that carbohydrate's going to be anabolic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That means it makes you grow.
That's right.
So if there's a takeaway for power athletes for performance nutrition, it's that probably over intake of protein, it can have the benefit of helping you add muscle mass. And it's difficult to find any research that shows that, quote unquote, it's bad for you, although some folks will say that it is. To whatever degree it might be bad for you, guarantee you it's not as bad for you as overstuffing yourself on carbohydrate, which you can pretty easily measure how bad that is for you.
Yeah. So one of the things we were talking about with the protein was I have a lot of athletes a lot of times that come to me and they go, well, I'm not able to train. I don't feel like I'm recovering very fast. I can't get in the gym more than 3 or 4 times a week. I just feel beat down. So I ask them what their typical day looks like, and they may be eating paleo, but they're not getting even 100 grams of protein in a day. And they might be a 200-pound person. So being a 200-pound person, trying to train like an athlete, and then not even consuming 100 grams of protein, what I generally tell them is the first step is to get 1 gram of protein per every pound of body weight. For most people who aren't getting 100 grams of protein, bumping up from 100 grams of protein to 200 grams of protein consistently, not like I did it on Monday and Thursday, but it was too hard to do the rest of the week. That doesn't cut it. If you start consistently eating more protein, then you're going to feel a lot better. I've had many athletes come to me in the last year that say, this is my problem. I tell them to eat that much protein. A week later they go, I feel amazing. And it's like, I'm like, and the thing is they didn't know they could feel that good.
Yeah.
I was like, I can train 2 days in a row. Like they couldn't do that before. And I was like, me personally, I think Doug probably is in the same boat. I don't think I've consumed, maybe in the last 5 years, I've consumed less than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, maybe 10 days in the last 5 years. Like I'm extremely.
So what does that mean for your daily intake? 170?
Oh yeah, I break 200 almost every day. 200 grams of protein a day.
That's strong work, man.
So
that's not easy.
Yeah, I'm eating like 7 to 8 ounces of meat at every meal.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get 4 or 5 meals a day.
Yeah,
and then post-workout shakes on top of that. So getting some whey protein. Liquid calories help. Putting down some raw milk.
Yeah.
That helps too.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between what might be the difference for someone who's doing a lot of volume is more protein.
Right.
And then also post-workout shakes.
And this isn't nutrition per se, but it's just as important, and it's kind of nutrition. But that same athlete, if they're vitamin D deficient, the protein's not going to help them recover faster. And if there's one, the only supplement I've taken in the only supplement I've ever taken where I had noticed a palpable difference afterwards was vitamin D.
Okay.
Fall time consumption of vitamin D.
I remember you telling me about that.
Turns your recovery around like in less than a week. You can tell the difference. So that's one thing to think about is what time of year is this a person who never gets out in the sun? Or are they stuck in an office all day? Because that might have more of an impact than the protein.
Yeah.
And then obviously sleep is not nutrition, but they're joined at the hip, so you can't shortcut sleep without having an impact on your metabolism. It changes the hormonal product that you're putting, that's mixing with the food that you eat. And so if you are a performance athlete and you're leaving sleep on the table, that's probably in my book, that's probably a bigger piece than food.
Yeah.
At least as big.
Yeah. Usually like when I talk to people and we're straightening out their diet.
Yeah.
It's, the next question is how much sleep are you getting?
Bingo.
And if you don't get enough, then life is going to be hard.
It is going to be hard.
I couldn't go back to the Navy schedule for sleep. That was terrible.
Yep.
Not very productive, I'll tell you that.
And makes it super hard to lose weight no matter what you eat. It's much harder to lose weight if you're not getting to sleep.
Yep. So one of the things that we advocate for our competition athletes is the during workout and post-workout shakes, whey protein, and some kind of carbohydrate. And it's going to vary depending on the type of workout they're doing. But we've always done whey protein and Gatorade. And we also measure out a certain ratio depending on what your goals are.
Right.
If you're doing a CrossFit style workout, like a 2-to-1 ratio, it's probably really good for you. So
you're saying 1 part protein, 2 parts
carbohydrate,
carbs. Yeah.
So what I would do in the past, maybe like 60 grams of carbohydrate or of Gatorade, and then 30 grams of like a whey protein.
Yeah.
And I would usually sip on that like while I'm warming up, and then while I'm doing strength training, and I'll do some strength training, and then I'll do some type of CrossFit style conditioning, and depending on what's going on and how long the conditioning session was, if it was really long, I'll slug another shake down. If it was really short conditioning session, I might not drink as many. I might just stick with that one shake that I had. I've more recently started moving to waxy maize, and I like that a lot better. It's definitely not paleo either. Waxy maize is derived from corn, and it's pretty close to glucose. Like you drink it and it gets in your system. No fructose. That's one reason I really liked it. I started off mixing like half and half Gatorade, half waxy maize, but I like the waxy maize just fine. And I try to keep about a 2-to-1 ratio. I find that helps me a lot. If I don't do that, I start dragging. Like a week later, I can tell that my conditioning sessions start going in the gutter real fast. I know Doug's in the same boat. I know we both played around with cutting the carbs in our shakes before.
Yeah.
And we both were like,
you tell the difference.
Yeah. I'm constantly varying the amount of carbs that are in my shakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Sometimes I don't put any waxy maize in, and I just put a little bit of protein. I call it good. That's what I did this morning. This morning I had a very short amount of time to train, and basically all I did was I ran some quick sprints, then I squatted and I left, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you don't need a whole lot of carbohydrates for that, because I'm not really breaking. I did doubles for squatting. Like pure strength work, you're not going to build up a lot of that acidic burn, which is an indicator that you're burning lots of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So you can get away with not really eating or not really having carbohydrates flowing into your system at that exact moment.
Yeah.
Moreover, my volume's been pretty low. I had a fight a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I've been training, but not really not like I'm prepping for something. So I didn't train yesterday. I've been eating pretty well lately, so I just didn't need as much, so I didn't take as much during my shake. So I constantly vary the amount of carbohydrates that are in my shakes, depending on what I had done in the 24 hours leading up to it, as well as what I'm going to do the 24 hours after it. If I know I'm going to train tonight, I probably would have had a shake. That way I'd be feeling good tonight, but I'm not training later, so I didn't. If
I could segue for a minute, that is, to me, you just put your finger on an issue that is the difference between what 90% of the population of people that come into a CrossFit gym need to do compared to what you as a competitor needs to do. Mm-hmm. Because 90% of the people that come into your CrossFit gym, they need a formula that they can follow relentlessly for a month or 6 months or a year until they get their metabolic systems under control. Mm-hmm. They really don't, they shouldn't be doing wild variations day to day. They need a daily formula that they can groove on for a long time till they get healthy. Mm-hmm. But once you get to that point and you want to switch from, okay, I've lost my belly, I've cured my blood pressure, I've fixed my triglyceride problem, I feel better, I sleep better, my whole life is better now. Now I want to be a competitor. I want to see how far I can take this CrossFit thing. Then they have to do a little bit more.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I think too, Doug and I are probably, and you two, probably way more tuned in to our bodies than the average person. I think the average person, they may, like, oh, I'm feeling tired, maybe I need shakes. It's like, you might just be feeling tired because you're out of shape.
Or you train too much, or you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of variables. But if you know, you got enough sleep, I ate the same breakfast every day. I know these things haven't changed, and the one thing I changed was my shakes, and now I don't feel as good. And then also how I used to, my old good is not the same as my new good, and my old bad and my new bad are two totally different things. And I now feel like I'm tuned in, and I can go, okay, I know what I'm training today. I know what I'm doing today. I know what I'm doing tomorrow for training. And as far as like measuring goes, I look at the scooper, and I may go through 3 heaping scoops of whey protein, and I'll look at my waxy maize, and I know if I'm going to be doing, 6 5-minute intervals all out, and I'm getting like a 3-minute break in between each one of them, and I'm going to be breathing really hard the whole time, a lot of burn. Yeah. Then I'll do like a whole scoop of waxy maize. But if I do what I did today, so like one Metcon took me 5 minutes, and I just blew it all out at once. Yeah. I did like half a scoop, and it's not where I'm like,
probably could have done none.
Probably could have done none. Yeah, for something like that.
5-minute WOD.
But for me personally, I don't care about how lean I am. Yeah. And I'd rather just be ready to train later. So part of it is if I was trying to be as lean as possible, I probably wouldn't be doing hardly any afterwards. Like I've cut out the way I eat. I've cut out post-workout shakes altogether before, and I was in ketosis like 3 days later.
Yeah.
So I was like pissing ammonia. So
yeah.
That's kind of like when we talk about getting some carbs with your protein and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like that's all. If you're riding the line like that, and the only thing you need between you, like just ketosis and not, is a post-workout shake, you're probably.
Interestingly enough, this is another segue, forgive me, but there's a book out by Finney and Volek about training in ketosis. Mm-hmm. And there's the guy Peter Attia from used to be War on Insulin blog. Now it's called the Nutrition Academy, I think. But you can Google Peter Attia, Attia, and get it easily. But his thing is all about doing endurance training in ketosis. So the concept of performance nutrition is changing literally before our eyes, because nobody would have said it was even possible 10 or 15 years ago.
Well, I wonder if it's a temporary trend also.
Could be.
You got like Matt Lalonde, who you're probably familiar with.
Yeah.
I think he was doing that for a while, and now he's gone. He's like, no, don't do that. I guess he was doing a lot of row intervals or something, and then now he's kind of like, you probably need some kind of post-workout nutrition.
Yeah, and you never know where it's going to go, because he could have just been doing it badly.
Maybe.
I know
a lot of guys are talking. A lot of endurance guys are talking a lot about medium chain triglycerides too.
Yeah,
they're doing a lot of that. And again, my theory is they'll probably, Doug and I have talked about this, is it'll probably just kind of swing back to what's always worked. Because I've tried it too. Like I've gone the whole, I'm going to cut my post-workout shake, and I'm going to just, I'm going to do the paleo thing. And if I'm in ketosis, then my body can handle it.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, my numbers start going down. And some people say, well, you got to ride that out until you get more sensitive.
Right.
And I just
not willing to do it.
Well, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like I'm not really buying that's going to happen. I think if I try to ride it out, I'll just run myself into the ground. Yeah. I don't know.
Hey, there are conscious whispering in our ear. The little devil whispering in our ear says, what's ketosis? And the short answer is ketogenic metabolism is when your brain is like a big sugar burner. It's like a big sugar burning, something like 600 calories a day to your brain just to keep it running. And its preferred fuel is sugar. And I like to think of sugar as like a high performance fuel, like drag racing fuel for cars. Extremely potent, but also really high risk. You got to handle it super careful, or you burn yourself. And so that, just like a high test drag racing fuel, it's got special handling requirements. But ketosis is the body's way of providing the brain a sugar substitute when you don't have enough glucose available to supply that 600 calories per day. And the liver produces ketone bodies via process so that you don't need as much sugar. It's a natural metabolic function, and it provides you with a lot of metabolic flexibility. I like to refer to it as the hybrid fuel model. You can run on one or you can run on the other one, whichever one is most beneficial to the body. You can run on sugar or you can run on fat and ketones. So hopefully that answers the question of what is ketosis. It's when you get low on sugar, so your body provides an alternate fuel for the brain.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
To your point about the medium chain triglycerides, briefly, for people that don't know, those are saturated fats that are a little bit shorter that your body can very quickly use for energy, similar to sugar. And so the endurance community is kind of taking that on, especially people that are concerned with being paleo all the time and didn't want to have sugar during their workouts because they're trying to just eliminate sugar out of their diet altogether. The downside there is I've never seen a performance study. I looked at like a dozen of them that compared medium chain triglycerides to glucose in specifically in endurance athletes. And in every case, the people that consumed sugar performed better. So in theory, you could get by with it, but it just seems that when it's tested, it just doesn't pan out.
And if you want to dig into that more, Atia goes into it in great detail because he even goes as far as measuring his ketone bodies pre and post workout. He talks about how he and Finney and Volek have worked out this thing where apparently there's a threshold. It makes no sense to me. I want to believe it's not true because it's so counterintuitive or nonsensical. But basically, when you're trying to do what those athletes are trying to do, which is substitute coconut oil or MCTs, which is the same thing really, for carbohydrates in an endurance athlete's diet, apparently if you can be eating the same amount of MCTs, but if you overdo the sugar, your body defaults to less efficiency with making and using ketones. And so if you want to use that model, there's what Finney and Atia are getting at is you have to be super careful about how many carbohydrates you eat overall. If you bust like a 50 gram threshold for Atia, he loses his MCT efficiency. But if he stays under it, his efficiency running on MCTs, coconut oil, his whole ultra high fat diet works great for him. But I think what they're also going to find is that there are huge variations between people. And there's also going to be a huge variation between somebody who's been doing it for 2 weeks and somebody who's been doing it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And that could be why the studies are not very favorable, but individuals are getting favorable results because they are doing it better, you know?
Oh yeah. Studies are always going to show an average.
Yeah.
Which doesn't account for outliers at all.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when every super performance athlete is an outlier.
Pretty much, yeah.
So,
a lot of times in studies too, like they get people, they're like, okay, here's what you're going to do for the next couple of weeks. Just, make sure you log your notes correctly and go off and do it. And it's not what these people are like. They're not, diehard athletes that really believe in this new way of doing things, and they're going to do 100%. They're going to give their best effort.
Yeah.
I've been involved in a lot of studies where, they tell a group of people to do something, and I've hung out with those people while they're doing it, and it's not always what you might think it would be when you're reading the study after the fact.
Yes,
Right.
It really is not the case in a lot of cases. Like I remember watching a study where they were looking at recruitment of muscle groups during a certain movement, and I watched literally every person do the movement totally fucking wrong. And I was like, that's gonna show, it's gonna show what it shows for sure, but I wonder how it would be different if they were all performing that movement 100% correctly.
That really goes to what you just said. If you take the philosophical segue, I'm good at that, I guess. But and what it goes to show you is that the point of the scientific method should be to identify a concept, a conjecture, or speculation, whatever, and then try to disprove it. Because for the most part, you can really never prove anything is true. You can only disprove. And if you've tested it a million times, then you wind up with a theory. And if that lasts another 10 years after that, and still it might be accepted as a law. But we forget, because of our frustration with how slow it is to use the scientific method to find truth. The point of the scientific method is to take that painful, methodical approach of disproving everything. That, the first thought process for any scientist should be, I don't think that's true, and I'm going to prove it by doing this. And, our overall understanding of science, or the philosophy of science, is so poor that almost nobody thinks that way anymore, which is why we get absurd, quote unquote, studies show that if you eat 14 tomatoes, your right leg gets longer than the other leg.
Depends which newspaper is writing about the study.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate seeing what journalists write about studies. It's never what the study really is saying in a lot of cases.
I think we need to have like a whole discussion on that one day.
That would be good.
Like just bring up who's bad about it? I subscribe to Wall Street Journal, and my wife, she'll read the last section, and it's got something nutrition in it once a week. They're almost wrong
every time.
In my opinion, they're wrong. I've never seen them right. I'm like, man, this is terrible advice.
Right.
You don't want to write about something that everybody already knows and is generally accepted. You want to write about something that shocks the world.
Yeah, my opinion on nutrition journalism is that, first off, they don't know what they're writing. They have no idea how to read a study.
Right.
And then number two, they just want it to be exciting, controversial.
Yeah.
Omega-3s aren't good for you.
It's like, dun, dun, dun. They used to be last week.
Yeah.
All right, so we want to talk about one more thing, and that would be a day of competition. So if you're competing in CrossFit, what type of what might the diet look like, or maybe even the day of a long endurance race?
Yeah.
I know a lot of athletes get very ritualistic and do some weird different things, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thought on that is, the day of competition is not your day to experiment and see what works for you.
That's true.
So if you want to deal with this question intelligently, it means you got to simulate a competition day, and you guys do that in your gym, which I've seen. I've actually been there when the athletes were suffering through that. Oh crap! I ate less than an hour before my workout, and now my meal's in the trash can. So
yeah. I've also practiced competition day nutrition for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat these sweet potatoes then, eat this chicken breast then, I'm going to drink my shake now. And then I get to the competition, and I'm just, something got thrown in somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, so my appetite just went out the window.
Sure. You slept differently the night before?
The only thing I can eat now is chocolate and almond butter. When I pack sweet potatoes, and it's like I got to eat something.
Yeah.
Eat the chocolate and almond butter.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what I'm supposed to eat. So I'm like, I just sip on a shake and then drink that and eat that, and then things go out the window. So
you make a plan and you test it, simulate it as best you can, and then that still doesn't always work. That's what you're saying.
What might be the best plan is to go to smaller competitions.
Yeah.
Do the smaller competitions. Have someone else running your schedule, no exceptions. Sleep in a hotel the night before, not in your own bed. Just things like that. That's the only way to kind of figure out your day of competition. I also find that a lot of people give a lot of advice on day of competition nutrition, and then everyone ends up tweaking it to whatever their needs are, because everyone's different.
Yeah.
So I find that younger athletes tend to freak out more. I know I did. Now I don't care. if I win or lose. So now I don't freak out at all. I just assume I'm losing. So no.
We do too.
But I usually tell people don't eat too much fiber at the beginning of your day.
Oh,
Yeah, you don't want to put down a bunch of fiber right at the beginning.
6 ounces of colon blow every day, man.
That's right. You don't want to be like, about to do an event and now I got to go to the bathroom. Or that especially goes for guys that are endurance athletes.
Yeah.
If they're running a 4-hour race, you don't want 90 minutes into it to have to go hit one of those porta potties, or worse yet, you're doing an ultra marathon and it's just a tree, and I know those guys keep toilet paper with them.
Yeah.
If you run ultra endurance race, keep toilet paper with you. That's what I heard. Usually, day of competition, you're usually going to keep things pretty high carb. Guys that try to keep it paleo, a lot of sweet potato baby food. I see that, and some people do the baby food meat. It's already processed. You can find stuff that doesn't have hardly any additives. It's just basically just ground up.
Yep. And it's a wrinkle for the Paleolithic template, especially people who are doing it in a high fat way, because most fats have about a 6-hour process from your mouth to actually being available in the body, with the exception of MCTs, which can be rapidly digested and therefore be possibly part of a game day kind of nutrition strategy.
Yep.
This is all set on the assumption that you're doing something like a CrossFit competition where you're going to be competing, and then another couple hours later competing again,
Right.
and then another couple hours later competing again. You're going to be competing all day long.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not just doing one WOD and being done with it. So
No.
having higher carb and then having a post-workout drink, all these things might help you for the long haul, especially if you're going 2 days in a row, which a lot of competitions are 2 days in a row. You're doing multiple WODs, Saturday and Sunday, for example.
Right.
One of the things I found, I wish I would have discovered waxing maize a little bit sooner, is on competition day, between like my nerves and just the extra intensity, going extra hard, my stomach would get upset, and the Gatorade, I just couldn't handle it. And the waxing maize is just, it doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah.
So
very mild.
You can get that carbohydrate without getting that upset stomach from sugar, Like anything sweet just throws me off.
You guys have also done powerlifting competitions. How did you manage your diet on those days? Or
Definitely,
did you?
Illegal drugs.
Oh, well.
I definitely wasn't as concerned about eating high carb beforehand. Not at all. I eat pretty much paleo all the way up to it. Like powerlifting meat, that to me that just kind of felt like
Every day?
Seriously, like every other day training. You walk in, you warm up casually, and then you build up to a heavy squat. You just do it in front of people, and then you move on to the next thing. And it's fun. Like you don't really get that tired. Afterward, if you set some PRs, you might be a little sleepy, like you're a little beat up, but like not like CrossFit competition where you feel like you got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Or where you're like really like spent some energy that day, got your heart rate up, and got that muscle burn. You're super sore.
Yep.
A little sore, sure, but I really didn't change my diet that much leading up to my last powerlifting meet.
Yeah, we had a big team go to state, like SPF state competition a while back. I actually went to nationals after that, and so I was like I was the only one competing from our gym at that. I think people just weren't as interested. SPF's a good organization, but like for most CrossFitters, they don't want to like spend all day to do 3 lifts.
Right.
But I remember standing around eating a salad. I was eating a salad amongst a bunch of like SPF powerlifters, which is like a bunch of West Side dudes.
Yeah.
And they're all big fat dudes. They're all walking around like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
What a freak. Like, oh, he must do CrossFit. He's eating paleo.
Remember what your numbers were?
At that meet?
Yeah.
415 squat. Terrible bench, maybe 275.
Uh-huh.
And then 485 deadlift. And I went for 5, and I was so tired from the meet lasts all day. Like, your first lift is in the morning, and then my deadlift was like at 5 o'clock at night. It was one of those things where I should have like found a place and went to sleep or something like that. But what I tend to do when I go for big lifts is jack myself up on caffeine big time. And I'll drink coffee and then pop a pill or whatever on top of that, and then get crazy. May not be the best thing because I've hit PRs with no pre-workout, what am I thinking about?
Like Jack 3D?
Yeah, Jack, that kind of stuff can work really well sometimes, and other times it doesn't.
Yeah.
And, is the intensity of being in front of a crowd, enough to not have to have that chemical stimulation? I don't know. I haven't competed. I think you'd have to compete a lot of different times and be willing to experiment at competition time, which most people are not willing to do that then.
Right.
I'm not sure if you can get over aroused at a powerlifting meet. Like, oh man, it just got too crazy. I totally just couldn't squat. It's like usually the crazier the better for like a big squat.
Yeah.
Unless you get so over aroused that you short your rep, which I think a lot of noobs do that. Like a lot of people who are new to like having to meet a squat standard.
Right.
Like they and then they cut it short and they're like, yeah, and like, yeah, you went down 3 inches. Yeah. So
it's a new 3-inch PR. All right.
Yeah. So after competing a few times, like I would rather overdo it than underdo it for sure. So go too deep. That's another thing. Go to SPF meet as a Olympic style weightlifter, and they're like blown away by your squat depth because you get a whole 2 inches deeper
than everybody else.
What's necessary. Like I was even like low bar cutting it short for me. Yeah. And they were still like, I remember the judges being like, "Oh, all right, enough about powerlifting."
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
all right. So you guys also have a couple of ultra endurance athletes out of faction.
Do.
More than one. I mean,
yeah, they eat paleo too.
Male and female eat paleo. Mm-hmm. How do they manage? I mean, one of them comes into my house twice a week and takes care of my kids, so I get to hear the stories. But
this is what he made me do.
Yeah.
Race day, they eat the goo.
Yeah.
And they do the workout shakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The thing that I see that they do different, and I think like Vaughn is learning, is to do less goo. I think he's overdone it a couple times. I think it's one of those things where like kind of like, well, I'm just gonna take extra Jack 3D powerlifting meet, same thing. It's like, well, I can't get too much sugar. You know what I mean? It's a race, and I think he actually felt it this last race. I think he went too much sugar. I know he did.
Yeah.
He felt that way. So he's gonna back off the goo and time it a little bit better. But again, that's the only things you're gonna learn on race day. So you got to compete to find out.
Yep.
You're not gonna go run 50 miles by yourself one day or 50K. I mean, a lot of guys do, but like I don't have them doing that very, very frequently. So
you could summarize this whole episode really in a way by saying, here's some ideas you can try, but if you really want to figure out performance nutrition, you got to go compete.
Yeah. It's for the performance in the gym. It's good to be very, very consistent with how you eat normally outside of training.
Yeah. And
then play around with your ratios. There's some general guidelines. Was it 0.4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight?
Per kilo. Mm-hmm.
And probably double your carbohydrate from your protein. So if you're getting 30 grams of protein, get 60 grams of carbs. I would start there and then play up and down there. If you start putting on some fat mass, you might want to lower it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also raise it up for a week and kind of see if maybe you feel even better. Some people aren't going to need as much. Some people are going to do better on the fat, like you were talking about. They may deal better with more medium chain triglycerides, and then some people can go higher carbohydrate. And then you could also eat drink your shake, and then an hour later eat like some chicken and some sweet potato. Get extra carbs. Depending on the individual, it depends on the volume of training. My post-workout shake and Doug's post-workout shakes look differently depending on how our training looks.
Yeah.
If our training is really high volume and we're doing a lot of stuff where I'm out of breath all the time, a lot more carbohydrate. So,
and if you're not privy with pounds versus kilos and whatnot, 0.4 times how many times grams per kilo might be a weird calculation for a lot of people. So just take your body weight and times it by 0.2. It'll be close enough. So if you're 170-pound guys, 10% of that is 17 times 2 is 34 grams of protein for your shake. And then you could just double that for your carbs if you feel like you need to.
Yeah.
Most of the time these days with my strength stuff, if I don't Metcon, if I'm just doing strength stuff, I do a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
So for me, being roughly a 200-pound guy, times 0.2 is 40. I just go 40 and 40. Carbs, protein, I call it good.
And if you're one of those dudes that are hard gainers, Add some carbs. Man, might work.
I'd say add protein, but you got to try both and see
protein
what
and
works.
carbs. Yeah. What I usually do is take that formula we're just talking about, and I take a shake for the weight I want to weigh. So if I'm 175 and I want to weigh 190, then I just bump my protein and carbs. Just, more post-workout nutrition. That's when you're going to be the most anabolic anyway. That and when you sleep. So drink a gallon of milk before bed too. That way you'll pee 20 times before you get up. All right. I think that about wraps it up. You got anything you want to promote, Doug?
Yeah, definitely. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, come out and to the live nutrition event that we're putting on here in the next week. October 15th is a Monday.
Come out to the website.
Yes.
Come out physically.
Yes. It'll be a live online event. Again, it starts Monday, October 15th from noon until 1. And it'll be noon till 1, Monday through Thursday that week and the following week. To register for that and to get sent the link to, that's me typing, get sent the link to that very first session and all the sessions that follow. Click on the banner ad right below the opt-in on fitter.tv, and it'll take you to a page where you can put your name and email in so you can be on the list. If this is well after that live event and you just want to check out the Faction Foods Nutrition course, which is what we're showing, you can buy that in the Fitter shop. Just go to the top of fitter.tv, click on the shop, scroll down, and click on seminars, and then it is called the Faction Foods Nutrition course.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Anything you want to promote, Paul?
You can go to my blog at fireofthegodsfitness.blogspot.com, and my goal is to give a digestible amount of nutritional either health or performance information out 5 days a week. So, you can go, and in the short term, you'll find a lot of great sources for that kind of information. The links that I reference and the blogs that I reference, and in the long term, it's a lot of people have told me, or a lot of the feedback that I get most often is the easiest way to learn any of this stuff is daily exposure in a small amount that you can digest pretty quick.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right, and the last thing is if you don't want to sign up for the nutrition course, you just want to be stubborn or you can't make the time, go ahead and go to the fitter.tv, FITR.tv, and sign up for a newsletter. That way we can let you know when we post new podcasts and post new technique wads and just all the other stuff that we do that's really awesome. All right, guys, see you next time.
Thank you.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. I like to stay on top of